with one of our attendees, and they go, "Man, that guy's powerful. He actually brought me to tears." And it's always interesting when you just run across people that are meant to be in your life and involved in this movement. Remember, we look for breakthroughs, conceptual or technological breakthroughs from inside and outside the profession that can add to the movement and understanding of where we're going and what we're doing. That's an example of concepts from outside of our profession coming and motivating us. There's no such thing as can't. Can't never accomplished anything. Hold on to your dreams. No one can ever take them away from you. And remember, impossible just takes a little longer. I loved that. That was fantastic. All right, so by the way, one more thing. The gentleman who gave his testimony right before that, just for a little fun comment, when he always talked, his right heel was about 2, maybe 3 inches up in the air. That's what he'd have to do to stand level. He'd have to have his right heel up in the air. And then when he'd go back down, put his heel down, he'd be like this. So he always stood like this. Wow. You saw how kyphotic he was. For those of you who do supine leg length assessments, when he would lay down to get his leg length assessed, we'd have to have 3 pillows there to support his head to keep him in his neutral. He could not lay back. If you didn't use 3 pillows, he would just hold his head in the air because he was so kyphotic and fused and all that. One day I had adjusted him. Actually, it might have been it was the first or second time he got adjusted. And so he's laying there and he's like, "You think that worked?" And I reached over and I grabbed one of the pillows. I didn't put 3 pillows under his head on the post check. He didn't need 3 on the post check. And so I held up in the air and he's laying there. He looks over at me and goes, "Wow."
So cool.
So cool. So cool. All right, I know you guys really enjoyed Shawn and Lacey's talk yesterday, and so we're bringing them back for more. We have another 45 minutes hour segment with them. So without further ado, Shawn, Dill.
We can just skip all of the introduction stuff. Who was not here yesterday? Oh, this okay. Oh, man. Okay. Well, I'm Shawn. Maybe we'll have Lacey chime in and say things every now and then if we have anything that I'm missing out of this. Lacey and I both practice something called the art of the specific, knee chest, solid headpiece, upper cervical. We teach that in many different venues, but what we are here really to work with you on is how to build your business so that we can reach more people, make more money, save more lives, and then convert that money back into promoting this idea, get upper cervical out, the message out to the masses, again, reach more people, save more lives, and just do this in a circular fashion. There are a lot of leaders of different areas, which is also to be commended for Stan and Kelsey bringing a diverse group together here to present to you guys. And so I hope that some of you will view this presentation from a point of view of how can I build my practice, right? Because that's probably what you need. Others of you, I hope that you will view this presentation more from a lens of how can we promote the idea of upper cervical. Now, if you're a student or you're in your first 5 years of practice, please don't do that. I fell into that trap where I was like, hey, we got to promote upper cervical. First, you have to be extremely rich. Then you can help to promote upper cervical, because if you have no money, we can't do anything, right? And that's a tough thing to talk about, in the Florida and the Atlantas and the DE world. The bottom line is we have to have resource in order to get the word out, right? So you must be, that's the first requirement, you must be ultra successful. As an aside, I want you to write this down. How about we start getting really comfortable after this weekend, looking at people in the eye and saying these words: the best thing for you is me. The best thing for you is me. If you can say that to somebody, then the next part is, and it costs $20,000, won't be as difficult, right? So I think that's the first step. Hopefully, where you are this weekend is beginning to realize, wow, first of all, this is hard work, right? I heard, it's an avalanche of information. Well, once you have the information and you have the knowledge, and knowledge is power, then you have the skill, and you couple the information with skill, you have the potential to change someone's life. That's worth more than $45 a visit, right? You're going to have to be comfortable first, though, looking at somebody and saying that. Here's our goal. We want to double your revenue and triple your practice in 45 minutes. No, that's not right. Double your revenue, triple your profits in 45 minutes. I'm going to make a couple assumptions. You're going to use whatever numbers that you want to use for your real life. I'm going to assume $10,000 a month in collections. That would be $120,000 a year. I'm going to assume 40% on the overhead, $48,000 in expenses. That would give you $72,000 in profit. I'm going to assume a CBA of 2,000. I think that's pretty fair in the upper cervical realm. Probably you could even push that higher. CBA is calculated by multiplying your PBA times your OBA. Step number one, you must, everybody in this room, you must know these numbers for your practice right now. Like if you're like, then we have a problem. Like you have to know. One of the things that Lacey and I do, we do a whole weekend on this on a program that's called Money Matters. And we work with people to help them to understand their relationship with money. And Lacey was so fired up to hear some stories about Stuart Wilde, like, one of her idols in the money mindset world. One of our favorite books on this is called The Little Money Bible. And it truly is a little money Bible. It's little. You could read it. If you get it on audiobook, Lacey and I travel a lot. I will frequently play The Little Money Bible. I've listened to it, and this is when she said, "Oh, Stuart Wilde," I was like, English, right? An English accent, right? And she was like, yeah, because I've heard him so many times in my ear talking about these money principles and money concepts. The thing that we have to understand is that we've got to be in relationship with money. And the best way to be in relationship with somebody is to communicate with them. If I were to go, I'm going in a couple of weeks to Australia for 10 days, would it shock you if I went to Australia and Lacey is staying back home, and for the 10-day period, I didn't communicate with her at all? Would that be weird? Yeah, that would be bizarre. You would be like, what? Like you didn't text her, email, talk to her? No. When I leave, I leave. I was somewhere else. Like that, you would say that's such a weird relationship, right? And so the thing is I mean, and the reality is probably what would be considered regular is if I was in constant communication with her. Probably wake up, text her, hey, how's your day going? Because she would be on a day behind, and we would communicate regularly. So I often wonder for you in the room, how is your relationship with money? Are you in constant communication with your money? One of the things that I do every day, did it this morning, is every day I wake up, I do my own books. There's not a lot of transactions in your world, in our world. It's not like we're buying supplies, like you're making iPhones. So there's a few expenses, and then we have a bulk, every day some money comes in. And so I put that in, and I look at the expenses, and I do my books. And we have multiple companies, and I do all of that. And what I see myself doing is checking in with the energetic realm of our finances and saying, hey, how are you guys doing? Is everybody okay? Is everybody in their spot? Is everybody happy? Is everybody where they need to be? And so I want you to start to get into a really good relationship with money, especially if you're a student. That's what will help you to be comfortable with it. It's just like, hey, you're comfortable with it. Females in the room, if Lacey was up here, she could talk to you about this. I would always look in Lacey's purse and say, man, like you have like all this change, and her wallet, it felt like if you like opened it, it would explode. Like there would be receipts and all of these things. And I would say, do you think that's very respectful of your money to do that? Like just throw it in the bottom of your purse and crumpled up and jam it in there? And then she doesn't like change still, but what she did was she was like, you're right. Because I always said that when it became coins, to her it lost its value. As soon as it was a coin, then it was worth nothing, right? Like 4 quarters worth $1. Excellent, right? Because 4 quarters, I do that. Like, so when it was coins, it lost it. So what she did is she got a jar, and she started to accumulate all of the coins in the jar. She's like, I'm just going to put them all there, and at the end of the year, I'm going to cash them back in for paper money, which still works. And she gets this, bounty at the end of the year, and we guess how much do you think is in the jar, and like we play that little game, but it still is respectful of that. And then also too, she began to, as I began to say to her, hey, you've got to do this. Like the money in my wallet right now, it's all by denomination. They're facing the same way, and they're wrapped up there because I want to take care of the money that has been given to me. So I don't want this to be an awkward conversation, because I want you to eventually, if you hear me back again, and we talk money considerations or concepts, you're like, yeah, I know exactly how much money is in my bank account right now. I know exactly how much money I have invested. I know exactly how much is in my pocket. I know exactly where I am financially. And so that's the precursor to having a discussion. I know where my practice is. I know what we collected last month. I know how many new patients we did. I know where they came from. I know my stats. That's being responsible and being in great relationship. Can you imagine me saying, well, when's Lacey's birthday? I'm not, it's sometime in like the later part of the year. I'm not really sure. You would say that's bizarre. Like, why would you not know? If you want to be in great relationship with money, then you need to treat money as great relationships that you have in your life. So now, if we're comfortable with that, I want to ask you a question. Wherever you are, let's assume these are your numbers, or we're just going to use these hypothetical numbers. We're running these numbers. Where are you spending your time to do this? Where does your time go?
Mostly in the clinic.
So one is providing the service, right? So I'm in the clinic and I would have quote unquote adjusting times, or checking times, times that I'm actually seeing patients. One thing I find really interesting too for a lot of chiropractors, for some reason, like, and especially to the students in the room, somebody planted this really weird idea in your head that chiropractors work 3 days a week. That's a part-time job. Like, that's not what chiropractors do. Like, no, 3 days a week. Yeah, 3 days a week, you know, from 9 to 11 and 4 to 6. Well, that's 4 hours. Like, you have a 12-hour-a-week job. Yeah, and I don't know why I'm not making $500,000 or $1 million. I'm having a hard time. Like, okay, well, you hardly work, first of all. What do you do the other days? Well, you know, I got to surf, and that's a strange concept that's in people's heads. I mean, and, you know, I talk to a lot of students. I don't know why that became the standard, but that is not the standard. So if we were working, and you take your adjusting hours, how much, let's just say that we were working 30 hours a week in the clinic. How much is your time worth while you're doing that? 2,500 a week, 30 hours. Well, let's say 25 hours. 25 hours a week we work. Math guys, this is AO, right? Or not AO, this is Epic.
10,000.
How much?
10,000.
No, so I'm working 24 hours per week. I make 25 hours per week. I make $2,500 per week. How much is my time worth? Per hour. How much do I make per hour?
100.
100.
Oh my God, I was tired.
That's what Sonus is for.
Sonus. Poor Sonus.
$100 an hour, if that's where I'm at. So we're at 25 hours. Now, a standard job is 40 hours a week. Where are you spending the other 15 hours?
Paperwork.
Admin
Marketing.
stuff, paperwork, marketing. What else?
Studying X-rays.
Studying, X-ray, marking. Anything else?
Just anything or work with it?
It could be anything, yeah. Family,
Sonus.
gym.
Learning Sonus.
All right, so we have all of your time then delegated out. How many of you, other than family and gym, so when Jamie said, well, what about these last parts? How many of you love the top line? Like, you're like, I'm so pumped up, I'm going to do payroll. I wish I had extra payroll to do. All right, hey, like you call your buddy and you're like, how's your insurance paperwork? You want me to come over and do some of it? Because I got a little bit of time on my hands. Like, is that what you, how many people love that part? So what would you think in your mind that work is worth?
$15.
Oh, $15 an hour. Step number one. One of the things that, these little, and we're having one of these moments, sometimes I like get excited. If you've ever heard me speak, listening to me talk is like watching a Quentin Tarantino movie. Like, there's these little stories they're all going on, and you just have to follow. Like, all of a sudden, we're talking about the guy in the pizza, and then all of a sudden, like, some guy's getting shot, and you're like, and there's all these different things. This is one of them. Do you know one of the common traits, probably in my opinion, the one common trait that all successful people have?
They hire people
Close.
The power of leveraging.
I like that.
All their time is valuable.
Check this out. This is going to be so revealing to you. You're going to say, oh my gosh. This will be also scary for some of you. They are extremely decisive. They make decisions very quickly, and they're decisive. Now, the reason why I brought that up, the reason why this is so important, is because look at how many people in your world are indecisive. Look at tonight when you say, Russell, where do you want to go to dinner? How hard that is. People can't figure out where they want to eat. If you ask me, I will tell you where I want to eat. I'll say, Morton's, let's go. And then you'll be like, oh, well, you asked me, right? If you ask me what I want, I'm not confused. I know exactly what you asked me, and I'm going to tell you. But also, likewise, on things like this, I'll be sitting in a learning environment, and how many of you saw some really cool stuff today? And how many of you thought I should do that? And the difference is that really successful people say, I am going to do that. I'm going to do that. Should is the most disempowering word in the human language. Just eliminate it from your vocabulary. You shouldn't do anything. Either you're doing it or you're not. We should go to Morton's. Well, I don't know. Are we going or are we not going? The decisive people say, hey man, we're going to Morton's. This is what we're going to do. We're going to build a new website. And then what we're going to do is we're going to load this. This is not an idea. Ideas, this is what ruminates in my head. As soon as I'm telling you this is what we're going to do. So here's the next step is why would you in this room, why would anybody in this room do anything where you could pay somebody $15 an hour to do it?
That's right. Only if they love it.
Only if they loved it, yes.
To do the time exercise for the course of 1 week to figure out how to delegate that.
Thank you. So one thing that we encourage our clients to do is, this is a tough exercise for some people. And it's, you know who it's toughest for? Or for the people who think that you don't need it. Always. If you're like, oh, I don't need to do that. You're the one that you will be shocked if you do this exercise. We ask our clients to write down at the end of the day everything they did. I mean, everything you did today, just write it down. I mean, everything. I took my dry clean, I went to the grocery store, I went to the gym, I hit golf balls for an hour, I talked on the phone, I checked my books, and you write down every single thing that you did. And then you take that list and you separate it out into two categories. One would be the $15 an hour tasks that you did, and the next would be the $100 an hour tasks that you did. And then the next step, so this is the decisive moment, is then you delegate all of the $15 an hour tasks to somebody else. Because all that does is free up more time for you to do $100 an hour things. A lot of times I think that people are like, well, I only work 3 days a week. And I'm like, huh? And they're like, because the other 2 days I'm doing paperwork. Well, why would you spend 2 days doing paperwork? Pay somebody to do that, and then take the other 2 days and see people at $100 an hour in this fictional case, right? And the reality in this room is that most of you, it's not 100, it's more like 500, 750, 1,000, 1,500, 2,500 an hour that you're getting. Why were you doing something that you could pay somebody $15 an hour for? The next thing then, when you said marketing, what exactly does that mean?
Well, sometimes it means like going to the business meetings that you signed up for.
Networking,
Right.
Chamber of Commerce type
Right.
things.
And
What else do we do?
I hired people to do that.
You can hire people to go do that. One of the things that and if you have multiple people in your office, one of the things that I will tell you, well, the single most important asset that you possess in your business is what?
Your wife.
Yeah, you're your life, yes. But your time, oh, that's a great one. Here's another thing. We use this, I have a better word. In Black Diamond Club, we say be jealous with your time. I was reading something recently that said be ruthless with your time. And literally, when I am working, Monday through Friday is not a fair thing to say for working, because I have off kind of Wednesdays and Fridays. It means we work a lot on the weekends. But when I'm working, my time is delegated out ruthlessly. Try this the next time you get on the phone with somebody, because I love this. Russell calls me and he says, hey Shawn, can I speak to you for a minute? And I say, yes, Russell. I have exactly 12 minutes that I can speak to you. What can I do for you? Try that. Tell somebody on the phone, I have exactly, and then tell them a number. Yeah, of course, I could talk to you. I have 8 minutes free right now. And then they'll skip like, oh man, did you see Tiger? He's killed. Like they'll skip that. They'll say, oh yeah, so I just wanted to know where we stand on the X-ray unit that you wanted to put into the clinic. Like they'll go right to the point, right? And then also though, if you do that, then I'll say, oh, I'm sorry, Russell, time is up. Let's coordinate a time when we could circle back and we could talk about this again. I am ruthless with that because I'm not going to let somebody or something steal my time. How bizarre would it be? I always say this to people. How bizarre would it be if you saw me leave here and you were just kind of like, I'm going to follow him. And I was walking to my room and I reached in my pocket and I pulled out $200 and I just threw it on the floor and I continued walking. And you looked and it wasn't like it fell out. I took it and I threw it on the floor. Like it was like trash. Like I picked it out and I looked at it and I was like, how weird would you think that was? I think that's the same thing when somebody like jumps on Facebook and then they're gone for like an hour. I'm like, hey, like you took $1,000 and just threw it on the floor. Like, and look, I have no problem with you scheduling that. I have like you said, like family time, gym. I have no problem with you saying, look, from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m., I screw around on Facebook. Okay, fair. That's cool. But not like I was doing this thing and then next thing you know, I was working on my book and then I clicked on, and then I was on Facebook and then at the end of the day I did nothing for my book. Okay, well that was like taking money out of your pocket, just throw it on the floor and just walking away. That's what I mean by being ruthless with your time. There's times for everything. Everything that goes on. There's a time for it and there's an amount of time that it takes. And when the time is up, the time is up. Some of you might need to set alarms on your phone. And you sit down and you say, I'm going to write emails for my patients for 30 minutes. Now, if I get it done in 15, then I've got 15 minutes to screw around on Facebook, if that's what you want to do. But if in 30 minutes it's not done, the alarm goes off, and I must stop. Why? Because there's something else coming. Like, well, now I'm supposed to be checking my books, and I got to do that. And I didn't get the thing done, so I'm going to move it off to another time. Another Quentin Tarantino sidebar. I prefer all of my clients to work in sprints. Reason why, when we talk marathons, if I were to look at the physique of a marathon runner versus the physique of a 100-meter dash runner, what's the difference? Yeah, the short sprint guy, he looks like a bodybuilder, right? Usain Bolt, right? And the marathoners, the Ethiopian guys that run, they're skinny and they're lean. And I think to myself, well, I want my business to look like Usain Bolt. I want you to look at my business and be like, man, woo, like it's ripped. And so I prefer to work how he trains, which is in high-intensity intervals. And that means that I think, especially for you younger students in the room, I actually believe that the human brain in 2018 is actually incapable of long, sustained periods of concentration because of the way that we're wired right now. Oh, look at that. And so here's what we do is we'll work for 30, 60, or 90-minute intervals, and then we'll stop. That's a sprint. And then I'll stop and I'll do something else. If you want to work and then eat breakfast and then work and then take a walk, take the dog out and then work, but you have to pause it in those sprints. So my calendar just gets blocked out these buckets of sprints and then we dump information. I have, another Quentin Tarantino one. Hope you're getting value today. I keep on me pretty much at all times, either in my iPad, since I discovered this Notability app, I carry it sometimes there, but it's actually more frequently in hard copy. I carry 2 books with me all the time. They're 2 black books. One of them is my agenda. My agenda is written out. I write it out the week. I keep it in my computer, but then I write it into the written agenda on Sunday, so I know what's up. But I also have another book that I have a list of all the cool things that people tell me along the way, or things that I hear but I can't process yet, maybe like this weekend. That book for me is called The Book of Yet. And that's everything that I haven't done yet or I haven't been able to process yet. So Stan might sit down and tell me like, well, have you ever thought about the anomalies and when you're looking at motion, how that might change the motion of the segment? And I'm like, that in the book, I haven't figured that out yet. And it's got to sit there, and what I'll do is on Sunday is I'll go through the book of Yet and figure out things that I'm going to move from this book into now. Like I need to this week I'm going to dedicate 90 minutes to figuring that out. Or some people say all the time, like, hey man, have you ever thought about creating a funnel where you can take people from Facebook and do like, that's really interesting, but I don't know how to do that yet. And so I'll write it down. I don't have to action item everything in the moment. I just have to have these spaces in my life where I can eventually action item them and I put them in. But I want to be extremely efficient with my time. And more importantly today, I want you to get extremely efficient with your time. Yesterday we talked about marketing by building community. Today I want to give you a way to double your income by understanding something called distribution channels. Now, this is where I want you to decide, am I talking about your practice or am I talking about a bigger picture vision for you? Now, if I were to tell you that I had created the world's greatest hammer, and you're like, well, hammer's a hammer. And I was like, no, not really. We have a hammer that we've created, and it's unique in the way that it's weighted. And because of the way that it's weighted, if you hit the nail with the hammer, you only have to hit it once. And you don't have to hit it hard. It's just the weighting of it. Boom, boom, it's right in. We make them for about $25. We are wholesaling them out for $100. And then occasionally what we'll do is Lacey and I travel around and we go to like home and garden shows and we sell them there. And we've done pretty well. We sold about $100,000 worth of hammers in the past year. You say, well, that's pretty impressive. Sounds very Shark Tank-ish. And if I was on Shark Tank pitching this, what would be the next question? We took home about $25,000. $25 to me.
What are you asking?
I need $1 million, so we're gonna take this to the world.
How much do they sell them for?
How much we sell them for at the stores? We sell them for like $200.
In a year, how long?
What's that one?
Scalable.
What does that mean?
You mass produce it, market.
Can I do? Yeah, and can I?
Can you reproduce it? And if I order 10,000 of them tomorrow.
You guys watch Shark Tank, right?
How many of you sold?
There's. Well, we sold whatever that is, 500 units. What's that? There's only one question in Shark Tank.
Is it profitable?
Profitable at $25,000 on $100,000. It's not bad, 25% on this deal. We've got a lot of expense. We're traveling around. Why is it not in the big box stores? And then that's what every Shark Tank person says. That's why I need you. That's what it's every Shark Tank thing. I made a thing. I sell it in Clearwater. It's selling like hotcakes. I want to sell it around the world. That's why I'm here, because we've got to get it on QVC. We've got to get it on Amazon. We've got to get it in my case, Home Depot or Lowe's. I haven't figured out. This is a great hammer. We travel around. People want the hammer. Lowe's doesn't sell my hammer. It's not on Amazon yet. I've got to get it to distribution. Well, that should be pretty telling in this room too. This is the fundamental problem, that we have one, big picture in chiropractic, two, even bigger picture in the upper cervical world. The distribution channel for you is you. Bad idea. Terrible business concept. Watch Shark Tank. You can watch it like endlessly on MSNBC. Just dedicate right in your schedule for your book of, I'm going to watch like 4 consecutive episodes of Shark Tank to see how many people, the fundamental issue that they have is not that they don't have a good product, not that people don't want it, but they have no distribution. That's the problem. Not that it's not scalable, not that we can't. We have no distribution. I'm here to tell you in this room, you have no distribution. That's why. How come people don't know about chiropractic? Because you don't have distribution channels. Your thought process was the best way to do this. And listen, when Mark and I were at Logan and we got into chiropractic by going to DE, but turn the crank and testify is a terrible business strategy. Terrible. Go out and tell them one person at a time. Terrible business strategy. Terrible. Go sell the hammers one at a time. Knock on every person's door. You know how long that's going to take? There's 7 billion people on the planet. I could hit a lot of them a lot faster if I put it on Amazon and ran some Facebook ads. Distribution. But now we're coming full circle. Lacey told you that it was vital that you understood your ideal client and target market. So, distribution channels. We would need to look at your ideal client and target market and understand who currently, right now, holds the influence over them. And I want to make sure that you understand it's not you. It's not you. Or else you wouldn't be here. You'd just be like, I just tell people upper cervical, and like you think like and everybody says that, like, oh my gosh, if Oprah would just say upper cervical, which is a lie too, by the way, because haven't we had upper cervical docs on the doctors, and is everybody now like, yeah, no, and so you should say that's a terrible distribution channel. It actually doesn't seem to be that viable or that powerful that somebody from the doctor says upper cervical is great. And for so long we hung our hat on that. Like if someone would say that, then people would do it. You know what I would tell you too? And it's so weird, but what would be more powerful than Oprah or the doctors? Bizarro, depending on your ideal client. But for many of you in this room, what if Tim Ferriss said it was good? What if Joe Rogan said it was good? What if Gary Vaynerchuk said it was awesome? See, that's different. The doctors, the doctors say something is good 4 times every day, all day. And you should be doing this, and you should be doing that. And sometimes, and that's the other one, is Dr. Mercola. And I'm not slamming anybody, I want to make sure it's not a slam, but Dr. Mercola says something is good 5 times a day. He sells everything. So if he throws upper cervical in there, it's not like the social consciousness shifts on that axis because Dr. Mercola said that. We have to understand good distribution channels. Which, as an aside, if you're not capturing this and you're an upper cervical leader, that's why I left the upper cervical community years ago. Because I don't think it's valuable for me to talk to Russell about upper cervical, because Russell's going to do it. That's why you see me speaking last week at Cairo Fest, coming up at New Beginnings, at Mile High, at Berkshire's, because I realized that we were just in a giant, circle jerk, just talking with each other about how great upper cervical was, while the rest of the profession was completely ignorant to what was going on here. So I left, and guess what the upper cervical doctors did? They were pissed. Ostracized me. You dick. Hey man, I can't sit here and talk to you guys about upper cervical anymore. Especially too, if talking to you about upper cervical is going to cause us to fight. You know what's really crazy? I can go over and get Donnie Epstein and the networking guys, and they'll fall over for upper cervical because Donnie Epstein started network as an upper cervical technique. Donnie Epstein said to Danny Knowles, Danny, we have a problem in network. And the problem is that the guys learning network don't know upper cervical. And so we can have the egocentric realms of upper cervical docs that are like, well, I'm not going to tell them. Or you could say, this could be a very interesting distribution channel, because Donnie is a distribution channel for us if you're an upper cervical leader. Why would you not go to Donnie and say, hey, Donnie, you started as an upper cervical doc, let's have a conversation. And how could we get you, Donnie, to go to the network people and tell them that we need them to come to the Epic Symposium as a baseline starting point for understanding network. Now, a lot of times in the world, the ego gets in the way, can't do that. They're going to do Epic only. Well, some of them probably, if you've been here this day, will sit here and be like, what the hell am I doing network for? I'm going to do Epic, or Blair, or Nuka, or Nietzsche. What am I doing? I want this. This is what I've always wanted. But you gain exposure because you understand distribution. For so long, sometimes I would look at, the IC Upper Cervical Council. Who do we market the Diplomate program to? Oh, bad choice. That's why they bounced me from the council. I didn't want it to be for upper cervical docs. That Diplomate program was for chiropractors. Chiropractors take that program and sat in that room, they would have said when they heard Mark's presentation, I need to do this. We are so isolating ourselves. Now, if you can sit there and be like, yeah, okay, because you're like pointing at Stan and Ian and Brooks and me, you guys screwed it up. Okay, but hang on a second. You're doing that yourself in your own community with your practice, right? So now the microcosm of it, right? People don't get it. Not going to go out. They're not going to leverage distribution channels. It's like, hey, it's the exact same thing. Who in your community holds the influence over your ideal clients? So Lacey said yesterday, Lululemon. So the Google search is Lululemon and Ocean. If you haven't done it, you've got to do it. 30-year-old, single yet engaged to be married. has a job, makes over $100,000 a year, travels, and dedicates an hour a day to exercise. Who holds the influence over Ocean? Who holds the influence over Ocean? I just described her. Who? Gyms, travel companies. Here's what they said. This is so powerful. This is so powerful. Who? Okay, OBGYN. Yoga instructors. So powerful that most people think that Lululemon makes yoga clothes. That's not what they do. They actually created their own section. It's called athleisure. That's what it is, and you could wear it to a restaurant. It's not yoga clothes. It's athleisure clothes. But what they said was, yoga instructors hold the influence over our ideal clients. So here's what they did. They went and gave all of the yoga instructors what? At first, free, and then eventually heavily discounted, and now that they're established, lighter discounted. What they wanted was every yoga instructor to come in and be wearing really cool stuff that Ocean had never seen before, because they knew that Ocean would walk up to the yoga instructor and say, "Wow, where'd you get that?" And they would say, "This new company that came out, it's called Lululemon." No kidding. Yeah, you should check them out. Distribution. That's distribution. Who in your community holds influence over them? So here's what I'm suggesting. 5 distribution channels. A lot of ways that we could attack this. By the way, when Stan talked about us acquiring Cairo Sushi, that is nothing but a what? Distribution channel. I'll just buy the distribution channel. Now I own it. 6,000 people. We do summer camp. We get 300 people in a room every year. And then now there's a natural upper cervical influence in there. Do you expect to see upper cervical popping up in Cairo Sushi over the next year? All the time. And we have all these eyes on it, right? 5. Let's say that you picked me. You say, "Shawn, you are a potential distribution channel for me. You need to get me to distribute for you." In the community. I'm in your community. I'm an influencer. I'm the mayor. I'm a guy that, for whatever reason, I have massive influence over your... By the way, for example, if I wanted to pick also Ocean, tennis instructor at the country club. Massive influence over the women that they're hitting their golf. Like, we basically realized that, and we picked out tennis instructors as our distribution channels at country clubs, because whatever they say, those rich women do. Like, "Hey, you need to buy this new racket." Okay. Hey, you see these new tennis? Like, they're just like, "Well, this is what we're doing," and they all move as a collective. You don't show up and you like. I was talking to Mark yesterday about like when he played lacrosse. You can't show up in collective group activities and have like the wrong pants on, or like like the wrong shoes. Like, "Hey man, what are those?" They're dress shoes, but they're so comfy. You would be ostracized, right? It doesn't work that way, right? It's like if you wear, in CrossFit, by the way, is a great example of community and how that community mindset rolls. Where's your funny socks? All right, you have short socks. It's not how we roll. You're gonna have tall socks with funny images on them. Well, they have to have images. What about white? No, they have to like pickles or cucumbers or things on them. Like you can't. And that's the community mindset. That's distribution, though. That's how powerful this is. So you recognize me as a distribution channel. You want me to distribute for you. A couple of things. You guys are programmed to think when I said that referral relationship. Most of the time with the distribution channel, there's really not much that you can offer to them. They don't really need anything from, like, I'm good. I'm all set. Oh, but Shawn, you have a lot of influence over other people. Maybe if I refer you people, you'll refer me people. I don't need you to refer me people. You're like, what about if I refer people to Black Diamond Club? Yeah, the $50 a month is really not going to get me that excited, right? Tell me what you have, and if I like what you have, and more importantly, if I like you, then I'll help you. So first step in creating a distribution channel is gaining rapport by becoming relevant. Gain rapport by becoming relevant. So most of you in this room, I don't know who you are. You want me to become a distribution channel for you. How would you do that? You'd have to most of you don't actually know who I am either. So you'd have to somewhat know me. How would you do that? Potentially take me out to lunch. However, I will admit, and you can talk to anybody who's been in business for a little bit, somebody calls me and says, Shawn, can I take you out for lunch? I say, no. I'm good. I'm full. How do you get me?
Look it on Facebook.
Okay, and then you find out on Facebook,
And I Google it.
and then you Google me, and then you do what?
Find out where you are.
What was that?
Take you golfing.
Well, you can't take me. Well, you could. You know what? How you could take me golfing?
Stop you.
Do what?
Send you a gift.
Yes. That's why I post that all the freaking time on Facebook so that you will get it. And what would you send me?
Hold on.
That's not scotch.
You can send a bottle of scotch.
Scotch, yeah. Yeah, nice stuff. I don't know.
Nice stuff.
I see it, I'm like, that's too much stuff. He's got good taste, you know?
But it's not that. It's actually people learning this concept. You would send me some Pro V1, Tyler's Pro V1 golf balls as a starter. You would send me a bottle of Hanger One vodka. You would send me Angel's Envy bourbon. Dan McCoy sent me a bottle of Angel's Envy about a month ago, right? And so I get this, and I open it up, and I've met Dan McCoy once in my life. Angel's Envy's in it, and what do I say? Wow, this guy is great. I love Dan McCoy. Who's Dan McCoy? That's what I say. And then I say, hey, Dan, thank you so much for that bottle of bourbon. I just really appreciate that. And he says, hey, yeah, no problem. That's it. There's no strings attached. No strings attached. And then he's in a position now to do what?
Yeah, I don't really like to eat.
Yes, then he could make an ask. Hey, Shawn, I noticed that you're going to be in Clearwater. I happen to be speaking at the Cairo Thin event. Any chance that we could connect for dinner? Now, it's really hard for me to say no, but this is the guy that sent me the Angel's Envy a couple weeks ago. Do you follow? I'm kind of stuck. Yeah, let's get together. We'll have dinner, and now we're at dinner. One goal at dinner. The goal at dinner is to tell me how great I am and to get me to agree to do it again. That's it. No ask. Don't tell me about upper cervical. Just get me to be convinced that you are awesome. Now, where should you take me to dinner?
Wherever you like to go.
Bruce Chris, Fleming's, and you better go all out. I mean, when they come, hey, are we gonna? Guys want some wine? And I'm like, oh, there's that awkward thing. Are we drinking wine? You're like, yes. You like nickel and nickel, don't you? Bring us a bottle of nickel and nickel. And I'm thinking, wow, who is this guy? This guy is great. He's probably going to try and sell me like an X-ray unit or something. But he doesn't. He's just being nice, and I think this is great. And at the end of it, he says, this was fantastic. You know, our paths are set to cross again in about another month when we are speaking in Australia. Let's do it again. To which I'm going to say,
Sure.
yeah, that sounds awesome. Yeah, great. Fantastic. And he's building rapport, and he's becoming, I know exactly who he is, because he placed himself on my map, and I'm like, oh man, this guy is great. And eventually, as we do this, we are going to come to the park where I say, what is it that you do again? And he's going to tell me, like, oh, I work in IT, HIPAA, all of these things. I keep people compliant. And I'm going to say, oh my gosh, we have 17 clinics. Are we compliant? Like, well, I don't know. I mean, I could, because we're buddies, I could check it out for you if you'd like. Oh my God, it'd be great. And now, boom. And then he fixes my world, and then I go all over the place and say, Dan McCoy, you guys won't even believe how crazy, this is no joke, this is not hypothetical, you won't believe how crazy HIPAA incompliant you are if you use computers. Mind-boggling. And you need to find out, like, am I HIPAA compliant or not? And then there's a guy that fixes this stuff for chiropractors. Great. But you have to become relevant. Now, how much would that dinner cost? I'm going to just round it down to 200. You could, if you had a CVA of 2,000, you could have 10 dinners with me. And then I refer you one person, and we're back to even. And by the way, if you take me out 10 times and buy $200 dinners, and I'm not, move on, right? You got 10 is a lot. But look, some of you are scared and you're like, oh man, that's a lot of money. No, it's not. Because now here's the math. Let's review math. I'm proposing that if you committed today to getting 5 genuine distribution channels in your pipeline, and you are having lunch with them once a month. So that's just 5 lunches a month. You're investing $1,000 in these expensive lunches and or dinners. Depends on the level of rapport. Kind of odd that you just jumped right to dinner. Lunch would probably be more appropriate, and it would keep the bill down a little bit too on a lunch. But you went all out, and you were appropriately gifting, and you're spending about $1,000 a month into distribution channels. That I believe that it would be beyond reasonable that each distribution channel would send you 2 new clients every month. That would be 10 additional clients from distribution. Now, that would be 5 hours of work, 10 new clients, times $2,000 at a CVA. That's equal to $20,000 additional a month in revenue. So doubled your revenue. $30,000 times 12 months is equal to $360,000 per year in revenue, times 40% is $216,000 in profit. I think that if you would invest 5 hours, not fancy Facebook ads, not landing pages, not click funnels, distribution, that you could figure out a way to take your revenue from $10,000 a month to $30,000 a month, and that you could then profit $216,000 easily. 5 distribution channels. This sure as heck beats standing in front of Walmart with a plastic spine, banging on a big giant drum that says upper cervical saves lives. And that's what sometimes gets preached, right? This is not, when you look at people that are ultra successful, this is not rocket science. And you sit there and say, well, if I had the connections, you just haven't earned them. If I had the relationships, well, you just haven't earned them. You have to have a concerted plan to go out and create distribution for whatever the giant idea is that you have. And Lacey and I have ideas for distribution of where we're going. In closing, he just launched a new website. Is it still Abraham, Lacey? So Lacey and I, and this will give you an idea of like how you should work your mind to tie in all this money stuff. Lacey and I, about 3 years ago, I came across J. Abraham.
Abraham.com.
Abraham.com. I really suggest that just go on to Abraham.com. You will be lost, and you can come back in a year. There's so much content, and it's all free. All of it, which, by the way, that should be a giant lesson to you. I was like, I want to work with J. Abraham, because we're coming off of working with Michael Port as a coach. And Lacey was like, great, how much is it? And I was like, well, typically it's $100,000 a day. But sometimes, like if we're, get a part of something, we could go like to his house, and that's only like $25,000 a person. And she was like, well, we didn't have that money, we can't do that. I was like, well, we just have to create a plan of how we're going to get there. The reason why I wanted to work with Jay is, one, because he's incredibly smart, but actually yesterday, they did a premiere. There's a documentary that they created on him. It's called Getting Everything You Can Out of All You've Got. It's a great book, too. Jay is the consultant's consultant. So Jay is the coach to Tony Robbins. Jay is the coach to Damon John. Jay is the coach to Dave Asprey from Bulletproof. What I thought was, this guy knows how to create distribution. And we need somebody like that to teach somebody like me how to leverage people like that to get the message back out to the world. But you know what we were missing? Money. We needed, and that was how we started. You have to create some business systems to get the resource, the economic resource, to bring these people into your world. Right now, just $200 a lunch, right? And once you have that, take that. The chef that left at his restaurant, and they asked him, he's a Michelin 5-star chef, and they asked the chef, if you lost everything today, what would you do? What was the answer? How would you start over? I'd go to the fanciest restaurant, and I would take every single penny I had and I'd buy a meal. And then I would go figure out a way to get enough money, and I'd go back to the fanciest restaurant, figure out a way to buy a meal. And I would get every penny I had and go back to the fanciest restaurant. So why would you do that? He says, because I would be leveraging, right? So leveraging those people and those connections and those relationships to get me back going. Even if you're from zero, so if you're a student, you've got to just figure out a way to show up on Jay Abraham's radar. But it's your Jay Abraham, your person that's going to be able to promote this and take it to the world, and then you have to action it. The last thing I'll say is that, and I so can appreciate your guys' process of writing, going through writing a book. The first meeting that Lacey and I ever had, probably one of the, first of all, too, I don't usually get nervous around people. I've testified on behalf of chiropractic in Congress in Costa Rica. I've did a presentation at the Congress of Mexico. I've spoken at the Vatican. I just don't get nervous about things. And I was soaked with Jay. Like, I was like sweating, and Lacey was like bumping me, and she was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, he was asking me questions that I didn't even know the answers to. Half the time, the questions I didn't know what exactly he asked me. He was using acronyms. He was asking me things about our business, and I was like, I don't even know what we're talking about anymore. I was so nervous in that situation. It was like, oh my gosh. But, you have to be able to figure out who your Jay Abraham is and find a way to get that first $200 to get your foot in the door, and then you build rapport and become relevant. So Jay told me, very first thing, Shawn, you need to write a book. And I don't know, because I was so nervous. I must have made a face, because he said, I can see by your reaction you don't like the idea. I said, not that I don't like the idea, I just can't see myself writing a book. He said, well, there's a lot of ways. You just sit there on your computer and write it. What you could do is get somebody that could help you to write it. And then as circumstance would have it, we crossed paths with Tucker Max, who is a very controversial type dude, but his company, Scribe, was recently named the top company for culture by Entrepreneur Magazine. Scribe is amazing. Tucker's a very genuine guy. He just made a PR boo-boo, if you know anything about Tucker. That's not who he is. And Tucker then began to write our book. The book should be out at Berkshire's in the spring of 2019, and it's currently titled, the working title is None of Your Business, A Guide to Help Service Providers Become Entrepreneurs. And that's what I hope that you will begin to understand. I want you to have a big vision for your service, but a big vision in and of itself in a vacuum is useless unless we have the business constructs and systems and processes to leverage that vision and those systems and processes to reach more people. It hurts me and it pains Lacey. It devastates us to see upper cervical chiropractors struggling. When side by side, there are other chiropractors that are just doing everything under the sun, stem cells, and they're making tons of money. That's not fair in the universal order of things. And it is our charge to change that. But we do this, like we fly down here, give you the information, but now that this has been imparted on you, it's actually your charge. Now you have to do something about it, or else to the students, it will be very attractive to do stem cells and cold laser and fat loss and all of that. Why? Because it is more lucrative. So as long as what we do is the most lucrative thing in the profession, every student would want to do it. So rather than fighting about, whether there's asymmetry or if it's orthogonal or articular or what's going on in the brainstem, how about we started figuring out how to make every upper cervical chiropractor ridiculously rich? Then we wouldn't have any problem getting people to come to your seminar, because everybody would want to do it in the beginning just because it's a way to make money, to be cool, and change people's lives. That's where we are missing the boat. That would be the greatest distribution channel we could ever find, is your own success, and parade that in front of every chiropractic student in the world. Every chiropractic student would want to be just like you. Thank you guys so much. Hope you enjoyed it.